Welcome back to another lesson with Shelly Loves to Paint. I'm Shelly James and I'm thrilled to have you here in my studio with me today. We are kicking off the Halloween painting season with this sweet little version of a witchy poo bird. Okay, so she's a smart little lady sitting on her pumpkins surrounded by some pretty flowers and a drippy little background. And I'm looking forward to getting this done with all of you. So let's get started. First of all, I wanted to show you the colors that I've chosen for this. There is multi-surface and a matte acrylic by Plaid FolkArt that we're using. This is the multi-surface colors. And so those are great on canvas, glass, anything you can think of that you would like to put that on, wood, etc. And then we have the, this is an older bottle, but this is the matte acrylic. All right, so we're going to be using some burnt sienna from that line. That's preferably for porous surfaces. It doesn't work well on glass and things like that, but it works very well on our canvas. So we're going to use that today. So the first thing I want to do is get kind of a little drippy looking background going with this. We've got an 8x10 canvas. I've got my pattern all traced on, and I'm going to go ahead and take my, this is a 3/4 inch soft mop. I'm going to get some clean water on with that. And I'm going to pick up some pure orange. All right, I'm doing this on this side of it so that it doesn't run all over my plate. So I need water, and you're going to need a lot of water with that to get it to run. And we're going to kind of, I need more water than that. There we go, to get it to drip down. And we're going to go around our pumpkins like this, okay? So up under the bird and around the pumpkins. And then you can just give it a little tap to get the drips to happen. Okay, and then you want to have some clean paper towel under that, preferably. All right, just to let those drips run off. Give it another tap. So I've got a few right here that want to run. Okay, so that's pretty good. All right, so that's our drippy little background that we're going to have at the bottom of our canvas. I'm going to set this back over here. Okay, and so like with everything that we create, we always want to start with what's in the background first and then work our way forward. So there's some other things that I'd like to put back and around the back side of the bird, just some impressions of some leaves in the distance and some fall colors. So I'm going to take a 16 flat, get that damp, and we're going to pick up, first of all, let's get some, this is yellow ochre and coffee latte. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't go around my colors. I apologize. So I'm working with Pueblo, pure orange, yellow ochre, coffee latte, burnt umber, wicker white, medium gray, licorice, and then I'm going to put out the burnt sienna when I'm ready to use it because it tends to dry faster on my palette. So I don't want to put that out until I'm ready. Okay, so let's go ahead and take our 16 flat. We're going to come between the yellow ochre and the coffee latte and load that. Now, I don't want this real heavy, so I've got my colors loaded. Let's get just a touch of white on the yellow ochre edge here, a little bit more. All right, and then I'm going to come and get some medium. Floating medium is what we use when we want to use water, but we don't want to use water with one-stroke painting. Okay, a little bit of white still. All right, so a nice thin color with that. So lots of medium. Work that into your brush so you don't want a ton of paint. You can see right away it's thinned my paint, and I'm pretty happy with how that looks. So let's come, whoops, I got some water on my bird here. So let's come behind the bird and we'll do a few strokes here. Let's put a few leaves out here, and they're just going to be loose, okay? So don't be perfect with these. I want more medium. I'm going to wipe off my brush just a little bit because I've got plenty of paint on here, but I want it thinner. So more medium after I wipe that off. All right, so let's come up here. We can do a little, some stems in the background. All right, a few leaves. And they're very faint in the distance, okay? And then I'm going to continue. Let's come up behind here, and I'm going to take just the corner of my brush and do a little bit of tapping with that. All right, we'll go up this one with the coffee latte and then flip it over, get a little more medium on that, flip it over and tap the yellow ochre. And we can very loosely pull some leaves, right? So just rough. Now these right here were closest to her, and let's go ahead and do another one. Kind of fill in this space right behind her, between her head and her hat. All right, and then continuing over on this side, on the left, we'll do a few more of these stems behind the pumpkin. And let's come out here and make a few leaves with a few more points on them. Get a little bit of white. And it'll help that yellow ochre show differently from their coffee latte, but they're meant to be kind of a tone-on-tone dried leaves in the distance, okay? We're going to put some flowers and things in the foreground around the sides of her, so I'm not worried too much about the being this close to the back here. All right, so just some loose, I'm kind of jiggling my brush around. We'll create another point right there and another point right there, just to give an impression of like a maple leaf. There. And then we're going to go ahead, let's pull another stem or two up here, right, just to kind of balance her out. And we'll do a few little taps at the corner of the brush. Here and there. Flip it over. Let's get a little bit of white on the yellow ochre corner. And you can come right in front of here with that white. All right, and that's going to be good, I think, just for background color. That's all that is. Kind of muted, out of focus. Okay, so now, again, working from the back forward, I'm going to start working on our pumpkins, okay? And so, quick and easy way to get your pumpkin in place. We're going to pick up pure orange on this 16 flat. Let's grab a little bit of yellow ochre, and we're just going to come right in here around the back of the stem, and then pull out from the stem just to get that base orange color in there. I'm going to go right over these claws because they're going to be dark anyways. A little more yellow ochre right in here. Okay, and then once we get that and the other one in, I'll show you how we're going to do some real quick and easy shading on those, because this is, our focus is on our pretty little bird. So now this one in the front, I'm going to pick up some Pueblo, and the stem is under her foot. So again, I can go right over the edge, or right over her feet, because that's going to be dark. So a little Pueblo. This one's going to be a little bit darker than the other pumpkin. Brings it forward a little bit. Grab some more pure orange, a little bit of Pueblo. And remember, as always, when I have a more complicated design that requires a pattern, the pattern for this is available If you go look under the comments for this video, it's pinned to the top. There is a link where you can download and print the pattern if you would like. Okay. All right, so see how that one's a bit darker than the one in the background? Okay, so now what we want to do is let's wipe that off, and we're going to come side load some of this Pueblo, and we will go ahead and do the segments coming from the points of the stems. All right, so back here, and then here, and then here. And you want to do that pretty quick before the base color dries. Okay, and I can come get now on this one to darken and shade that one a little more. Actually, let me do just one more of these Pueblos right here. There we go. So we want this one in the foreground just a little bit darker. I'm going to now side load some of the burnt umber. Okay, and we can come into the back of the stem. All right, and then with the burnt umber on the right, on the left side of the pumpkin, that will create the right look for your segment shading. Okay. See that? And then you flip it on this side. So now on the right side, it's going to be on the left side of the brush. See there? All right, so that gives you your highlight or your shading for your segments. And then what you can do at this point is come back to, I've wiped off my brush, come back to the orange, side load the Pueblo, and on this front segment, we're going to push this down over the brown. Like that. That'll bring that front segment above and in front. Okay. And then I like to grab just a little bit of burnt umber on the chisel edge of this brush, and you can streak that up. Just sweep it up from the bottom on a curve. So to the right on the right side, to the left on the left side. Okay. Grab a little yellow ochre on the corner of your brush, and you can pull down. Let's get a little bit of white with that. Actually, this right here is a good blend. Pull down a little highlight on the front of that segment and on each of these. Just kind of dry brushing, sweeping that down. Okay, and then on the other one, let's wipe that off and get the pure orange with a little bit of white. And we can sweep down that one. Just dry brush that over the top half of the segments. Okay, so those are our pumpkins, and then we just need to add a stem on the left one. So with that, I'm going to take, this is a number 8 flat, and I'm going to get my burnt umber, load that on there, and then come side stroke some of this yellow ochre, not yellow ochre, coffee latte. Okay. All right, so what we want to do with this is let's come on the chisel edge. You're going to go down into each segment and then make a curve back up, and then back down into the next segment, curve back up, and then into the last one. And then you can pull up to fill that in. All right, and then I'm going to take white on the chisel edge of that loaded brush, and we're going to go right through here and create a little cut mark. See that? Okay, and then also with that white, you can touch and pull up from the ribs of those points. Wipe the brush off, get a little more burnt umber, and come in between those. There. Okay, so just a simple little pumpkin stem. All right, now we are ready to work on our cute little witchy poo bird. Okay, so again, working from the back forward, we're going to actually start with her belly and her tail, right? And the tail's going to get covered with flowers and leaves and things. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on that, but we do want to get that kind of filled in. So I'm going to switch to, let's get a 12 flat. Get that damp. And we're going to come in with, let's start with her tummy right here, and we'll sweep down into, well, yeah. Let's get the dark. So the gray, medium gray, and licorice, right? Double load on that 12 flat, and we're going to come right down here with the black down. Get a little more of the licorice. So under the body here, it's pretty dark where the legs are coming. And come right in there and fill that in. Okay. And then from the tail here, we're just going to sweep up with that black and gray and get stronger black, and we can pull strokes up on the chisel. Reverse the brush and stroke some gray as we get lighter going up under the wing and towards the belly. Okay. All right, so like I said, a lot of that is going to be covered. We just want it dark underneath there. And then let's switch and work on the tummy and the chest. All right, so I'm going to take that same 12 flat. We're going to get yellow ochre. And we're going to come, let's get a little bit of Pueblo side loaded. And we'll come right from here. So we're going to sweep down into that black. More yellow ochre. Okay, and then you can pull up from the black into that with the, leading with the yellow ochre, pulling the Pueblo behind. Right, and it's going to pick up some of that wet black and add a little color under there. So you got a little bit of that black. So I'm on the chisel. I'm not using much pressure at all, okay? Underneath the wing here. Okay, now wipe off that brush and get the yellow ochre and side load some white. So you're blending the white with the yellow ochre. It's not double loading, it's side loading to a lighter shade of yellow. Okay, and so from here, let's get a little more white. We're going to pull down from the chest. Okay, into what we just stroked in the mid section there. So that's yellow ochre and white. Okay, and then if you need to, you can grab a little of that Pueblo again and pull back up on the chisel to bring the bottom half of that together. So it looks a little more like feathers, just kind of back and forth on the chisel edge of the brush, okay? And then as you get up here, you're going to pull that Pueblo a little bit more. Oops. Right up into that yellow ochre white blend. Get a little more of the white on the brush, and we can pull down from the chest, little chisel strokes. Get some strong yellow ochre and kind of go in between here. So you see how I'm layering that up and working the darker into the lighter. Wipe off, come back to your light color. And sweep that on the chisel around the chest. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is I'm going to wipe that brush off again, and let's come get some of this medium gray. And we'll come around this side. And you know what I want to do is let's get a rake brush. There it is. All right, so this is a little 1/4 inch rake brush. That's going to work better. So get that damp, and then we'll get our gray and a little bit of white. So medium gray and white, and we're going to come right through here. Start down below. I always do that. Start down below and then work your way up so it's layering. And you can flick out just a little bit so it looks like feathers popping out of the chest there. That looks a little better. All right, and then from the neck, with those same colors, I'm going to pull and sweep down into the chest. You might get just a little touch of black on this side right here. And then right in here. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to come back to my chest colors because I didn't have this brush in my hand before, but getting those yellow ochre and white here, and this will add a touch of feathery look to the upper chest. Okay. little more yellow ochre down here, and then you can get just a touch of that Pueblo. And bring that together. Okay, I like that better. All right. Now let's work on the head, which is more grays and blacks. I'm going to use the medium gray, same brush, 1/4 inch rake brush. Get a little white with that medium gray, right? And we're going to come from below the beak, a little more white, under the eye. So from the eye, it sweeps this way. Get some stronger gray as you come in between the eye and the beak. A little bit stronger under the beak here. And then come back to some white. And here it's going to sweep this way down the chest. You might get a little touch of the black, licorice, and a little bit here and there. Come back to strong medium gray, and we can come under the hat. Around the back side of the head. Right, and this one's going to come forward from under the hat. It's okay if you go over a little bit. Around the eye. And then you can pull up from the beak. All right, so now see that's kind of a flat look. So then if I come and get white and streak that back from the beak. And from the back of the eye here. You can do a little bit back here. All right, I'm going to wipe that brush off and come get Licorice. And very sparingly touch and streak down from under the hat. In the front of the face and then to the back of the head. Okay, and then we'll work on that wing when we get this done. A little bit of dark right here behind the eye. So she's starting to look cute and get a little bit of a personality. Okay. And we'll reserve that brush for later in case we need to do some touch up. But for now, I'm happy with that. All right, so let's get the beak done. And then we'll work on, because we want to put the beak and the eye in, and then while the eye is kind of drying, we'll work on the wing. Okay. So our beak, I'm going to come back to my 8 flat, get the medium gray, and then let's side stroke a little bit of white. Okay, and with the white to the top, we're going to come out to the point. A little bit stronger gray. And then I'm going to grab some licorice with the loaded brush, so that white will tint it down just a little bit. I don't want it real dark under here, but the bottom part of the beak is a little darker. And then chisel, pull it back, pull it to the left from the back side, right side of the beak where it goes into the face. And wipe that licorice off, come back to some of this medium gray and go over that bottom part of the beak, just so it's not so dark. You might side load a little bit of white here and get the separation where the beak opens, right there. Maybe pull it out instead, yeah, on the chisel. Okay, now wipe that brush off, and then with licorice, we're going to come right in here to the eye area. Right, and fill that in. She's got very dramatic eyes, and flick back just a little bit, create a little bit of a eyelash look there. Bring this point out to the beak, right there. Right, and then you can side stroke a little bit of white, very little. And we will come right in here, just a little bit more, not much, and create a little bit of a glow to create that round look of the eyeball. See that? Just a glare. And then you can flip the brush around and do a little bit on the back side, and that'll help create the shape of the eye. Okay. And to finish that off, let's go ahead and take a script liner, get a touch of white, and we will add a little catch light right here on the eye. Oh, now she's alive. And a little bit right there, maybe a little bit of black instead, right here. There we go. Now she's looking so good. Okay, so let's work on this wing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with just licorice. Right, and we're going to come and get the shape of the wing down the back here. Chisel edge up the back of the head. So all black to start. And wisp that, or you can use the rake brush if you're more comfortable with that, up around the head here. Okay, there's a little bit of a glare, but that's just wet black. All right, now I'm going to take that same brush and we're going to side stroke some of this medium gray on one half of the brush. I want a good strong amount of it so that it shows up. And what we're going to do is, starting from the bottom of the wing, you can come down and stroke a feather, and you're going to layer these up, up. Can you see those? It's showing, it's just very subtle, okay? And maybe what would help is just a touch of white. Don't want it real strong white. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So we'll go up the front of the wing. Okay, and then you can come back down here and layer a few. Just hints of feathers. Up the back to the head. Okay, and like I said, down here we're going to put flowers, so it doesn't have to be super great. All right, so to finish our bird and get ready to do her hat and then the final flowers, I'm going to go ahead and take this is a one-liner, get that wet, and then we're going to get burnt umber to start. And we're going to do these feet. This one is underneath, coming from the other side that you can't see, so it just kind of disappears right in here. All right, and then this toe comes here. And this one comes right there. All right, and so it doesn't look like much yet, but what you want to do at this point then is come back and get Licorice. And, oh, sorry. Come back and get Licorice, and you're going to darken the bottom edge of each of these toes and then the leg. Okay, and see how that stands out. Now, you also need a little bit of a highlight on there, so you get wipe off, and I got just a touch of white. And you just, while that brown is wet, and it will tone it down, but you're just putting a little touches of highlight on the cloth. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing with the other one. Come back to the burnt umber. And this leg comes from right up here under the feathers. And we're going to have a toe that comes here. Here and here. Okay, then you come back and get your Licorice under each. Yeah, on this side here. And on the bottom of the leg. And I see a few white spots around where I put the shadow in the bird body, so I'm just going to kind of fill those in because I don't want white under here. There. Now these each have a claw, so you do a little point, little point, little point. All right, and then grab that white, just tap little highlights there. Okay, she's looking pretty good. All right, so now let's work on her hat. So now I can put out this burnt sienna. Okay, and we'll come back to, let's use our 12 flat. I think the 16 will be a little too large for this. Okay, so under and side of the back side of the hat are first, so that is not my 12. Yes, it is. Sorry. So grab burnt sienna, right, and we're going to come right under here. And then I'm going to side load some black, some licorice. And let's turn her for just a minute. So with this licorice down here, up against the head, and then we're going to bring it up into this curve. Okay, so that creates that shadow with just a hint of the hat color. And then with that same color, let's get a little bit of medium here. We'll come right in here. So it's pretty dark back here, with just a little bit of that burnt sienna to the outside edge. But underneath here, it's pretty dark with the black. Okay. All right, now I don't want that black in there anymore, so let's take that back off. We'll clean that brush real quick, and then we'll come back and get just burnt sienna for now. And we'll come fill this in along the front. Chisel edge to get to that point right in there. And the curve of the hat is what you want to follow when you're stroking this color on here. So think about that. We'll get chisel edge, we'll go up to the point. It goes underneath and flips over. We'll use a smaller brush for that area. And then here, we're going to fill that in. Okay, and actually I think I can get that point from here. We'll just chisel edge. So chisel and then push and stand up. All right, so then all we have to do is shade underneath there. All right, so now while that's a little bit wet, let's come grab some yellow ochre. And we're going to add some highlight up here. Now that yellow ochre isn't going to be strong enough on its own, but it'll be the medium tone. And then we grab some white, work that into your brush on your palette. And right up here, we'll streak a highlight a little bit more there. And then right on the curve up here, and take the corner of the brush and kind of tap down into that flip. And then we'll shade on the back side of this end once this is dry. Take that corner and you can work in a little glow here. A little bit more white, a little glow, and kind of tap it out. All right, come back to your burnt sienna with your dirty brush. So it's going to blend in, make that a lighter color, and then we can come right through here. Now let's get a little more white. Right through here. With a little band. Let's get some burnt umber. That band didn't look good, so let's make it dark instead. There, that looks better. So burnt umber on the chisel. And then another one right here. I'm going to take my corner of my brush and kind of tap along that so it's looks like it's got some texture to it. There. Okay. Now that burnt sienna dries fairly quickly, so we can shade it pretty soon. But while I'm waiting for that, let's come back to our 16, and we'll just come and add some pretty fall leaves and some flowers around this so we can finish her up. Okay, so Pueblo is always a beautiful color for fall leaves. So I'm going to get some Pueblo. Let's get some pure orange and Pueblo. Actually, let's get some burnt sienna with that Pueblo. It needs to be a little redder. Medium. And I'm going to side stroke some strong burnt sienna because I'm not getting the color on the brush that I want. There we go. Okay, so let's come underneath between these two pumpkins. And we'll come out, out, come back in, out, point, come back in, and then out to a point right there. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on the other side, but I'm going to rotate this so it's easier to get into this little area here. We'll put some of that orange so we can get out from under the pumpkin. Point, back in, point, back in, and then out to our main point here. Okay, and then with that, let's side stroke a little burnt umber on that same dark edge. And we can come from under here on the chisel and pull your stem into each of those points. There. So that looks fun. Let's do another one. So let's come back and get just our burnt sienna, or burnt umber, excuse me. And on our orange edge, let's put some coffee latte. So we've got orange, pure orange, and coffee latte. Get a little bit of medium because my paint's getting a little dry. Okay. All right, and so now what I want to do is let's come behind their bird with the dark in the middle, and we'll do little chisel edge wiggles out to a point. And then let's rotate. And we'll get but right up against the birds. Let me get my colors on here some more. Chisel edge. I'm not pressure for this one, but it's not moving real well, so I need a little bit of medium. There we go. All right, and bring that around and to the tip. Okay. So then we can pull the light color into the stem on this one. And we just do a single stem on that one. And then just for fun, let's come up here and we'll do a little fern stroke with those same colors. There we go. And restroke the stem on that fern after you do that. So we're getting a nice little balance of color here. All right, let's come and get some more burnt umber. And we'll come around on this side. On the light side of that brush, we'll side stroke some Pueblo. So Pueblo and burnt umber, dip into floating medium, work that in. And then I'm going to come side stroke some white on our Pueblo edge. Okay. And we'll come over here. And we're going to do a real pretty flower that's kind of peeping around from the back edge. So let's do some starter strokes here and wiggle. Okay. Continuing with those colors, we'll do a little bit of an edge up here. All right, so it's going to look like the flower is tipping towards us. All right, and then we'll do another layer. Let's get a little stronger burnt umber on the inside here. Okay. And then to balance that, let's get a little more of the Pueblo and then side stroke the white. Okay, so to balance that, we'll put a little partial coming down this way. And just darken underneath that edge there and do a little corner stroke there to pull in the lighter colors. Okay. And then we'll need a third to balance that out. So let's come over here from behind the bird. Let me get some more Pueblo. And then get that white side stroked. There we go. We'll come right in front here. Over our pumpkin stem a little bit. And then do a little second layer. Get that strong white on there though. There we go. Tip that corner if you need to, lift up the dark. Okay. And then down here, let's get rid of those colors a minute. We'll add another leaf. So let's come back to, I like these colors, so let's come back to burnt sienna and orange. A little bit of medium. All right, and in this one, we'll put the orange on the outside and the burnt sienna on the inside, okay? So I think on that orange, let's grab more burnt sienna. I want to add, because orange is transparent, let's add some white into it. And that'll help it stand out a little bit against this pumpkin. So point and back, point and back, point. And then on this side, point and back, point and back, and out to the point. I want a little more of that burnt sienna in there, so I'm just going to flick that out from underneath. And then you can rotate the brush and pull your stem into those points, like so. Okay, so let's add our centers on our flowers. Just some real simple looking centers. I'm going to come with this 8 flat, and we're going to pick up, let's get some, we want some dark first, so let's get some more of the burnt umber that we already have in there. Just make it darker. So just going to tap that in right in there. All right, wipe off, and let's pick up some Pueblo and tap that in. A little bit of Pueblo. And then finish off with a touch of white just for a little highlight on the corner of the brush. A little bit more. There, there, and there. Okay, so to finish with our shading, come back to my 16 flat. Let's get some clean medium on here. And we will come and side stroke some burnt umber, which I can't get to, so I'm going to bring it out here. All right, make sure you get that about halfway across so it fades from strong to nothing about halfway across your brush. All right, so right up here, we want to come underneath that flip in the hat, right? And then we're going to come down this right edge on the flat of the brush. Bring that out just a little bit more and then push it along this edge of the hat. There. Okay, so that just darkens that a little bit. We can come between our pumpkins underneath the bottom here. On where the bird shadows this pumpkin here too. And go around the leaf. You can come under here, make this dark. Pull that out a little bit. A little more burnt umber. Let's come underneath our, let's get the back side of this pumpkin a little bit first. And then around the stem and around the edges of the flower. And. I don't see much else. Maybe the head of the bird, you could come and get some licorice with that brown. And we can come right under here and darken the head of the bird where it meets the hat. Maybe grab just a little bit of white and come along the brim of the hat, standing up on the chisel edge. Okay. I think that we are pretty close to done. I see one other place where I would like to add a little shading under her eye and the beak, just to kind of set that. Yeah, that looks good. And then on the top of the beak as well. There. With the brown under the bird. And go right over the legs. Okay, so I'm going to get some inky burnt umber with my 2 script liner. And we can pull out a few twigs, a little more water, a little more paint. And down here where I started, there. Just to kind of soften some of those edges and add to them. I think that's pretty good. So we'll go ahead and sign it. And here is my version of a cute little witchy poo bird. Isn't she sweet? I hope you'll give this one a try. And I hope you've liked this video. If you did, please make sure you give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribing, please make sure you do that as well. And ring the bell so you get notified when I come on again. I will see you all next week. We'll have another fun Halloween design from me, Shelly James. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.